My life was saved from a gang-related pew pew because I heard the voice of the Holy Spirit. Let me tell you about it. So this is when I was what the church would call a backslider. I think I was about 19, give or take a year or two. And my best friend at the time was a gang-related individual. I won't even say his name, but he was my best friend. But I was always a believer in God. I was always a socially conscious individual that hung out with a lot of people that were in the street life. And that's where I was at that time in my journey. And if it wasn't for the conviction and the protection of the Holy Spirit of God, of the Creator, I would have definitely got caught up in that street life. And that's definitely not something that I'm proud of. But it's my story, it's part of my journey. So anyway, saying all that, let's get to that story. So it was New Year's Eve, and my friend's mom was like, what y'all gonna do? Y'all should go to this party. It says no gangs, no blah, 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 all this stuff. Little did she know that usually parties that say that in the flyer is because it's an active area where those type of individuals are most likely to show up. So anyway, saying all that, it was New Year's Eve and we pulled up to the party. It was a pretty small house, but it was crowded. There was a lot of people in there. And I was leaning against the wall right across from the front door. So anyway, I didn't know the guy at the door, the hood bouncer or whatever, but he seemed like a cool cat. So he was trying to keep everybody safe, making sure, nobody was carrying nothing that they shouldn't or whatever. And I could see through the front door because there was a lot of traffic. And like I said, I was standing right in front of the front door. And so I started to see a lot of like lowriders, people bumping loud music. I think somebody was even hitting switches. And then I saw a group of brothers, I think it was about 3 or 4, who looked definitely gang related. And one of them had a rag over his mouth. And he had a very menacing look in his eyes. So next thing I heard, the bouncer or the guy at the door was like, man, you can't come in here with that. So even though I wasn't a violent person, I didn't want no smoke. I always wanted to look out for my neighbor. So saying all that, when he told the brother with the rag over his face, you can't come in here with that, all of a sudden they started tussling. And my first instinct was to help the guy. But then I had an extremely strong impression. It wasn't an audible voice, but almost, because the impression was so strong. And so I heard this voice somewhat telepathically tell me, go, run, go to the back of the house now. So the voice was so strong that I could not ignore it. And it wasn't fear, it was something else. So I immediately ran to the back of the house, and there was a bathroom back there, and I pushed the door in, and I went in the bathroom and closed it behind me. It was pretty much like sheer instinct, not something normally I would do. As soon as I closed the door behind me, I started hearing a barrage of gunshots. A bunch of people started beating on the door. I heard a bunch of screaming. I heard a bunch of running. Heard a couple more gunshots. Then later, after everything had settled down, I talked to one of my homegirls. And she told me the wall where I was standing was full of bullet holes. I praised the Most High for sparing my life and speaking to me in a way that I could not ignore. And I'm glad that I listened. If any of y'all have any stories of how God saved your life, or you're sure that you heard the voice of God, either audibly or telepathically, please share your stories in the comments. Let's keep this going. Bless up.